Greetings everyone and welcome to another episode of First Thoughts. Today I will be doing a special review for Deadpool 2. Now what's so special about this? Well, usually for Marvel films I like to do spoiler reviews, but I think in this case I want to try doing a non-spoiler first half, and then once I get to stuff that I think are pretty juicy and worthy of talking about, I'm gonna put a spoiler warning and say, hey, if you haven't seen this film yet and you don't want to get spoiled on potential things that will happen, stop the video, go see the movie, come back, and then watch the discussion. Unless you don't care, then I guess continue watching. Sound fair? So first things first, I gotta say, this movie was pretty goddamn freaking funny. That's usually the general fear when it comes to sequels, especially when it's comedy sequels. Yes, this is a superhero film, but it's Deadpool. He's known for breaking the fourth wall and being quite humorous. So your common fear would be, well, is it gonna be as funny as the first? And if not, will it still be a good movie even though the jokes might not land as much as the first? Well, I'm here to tell you that I personally think the movie is just as funny as the first one, albeit slightly different circumstances of where the humor is coming from. Just slightly. One of the biggest pluses for me about this movie is that I feel like the humor is very fresh. One of the things that really peeve me off when it comes to comedies or just, well, animated films are guilty of this. Whenever there are callback jokes to like previous films that you first saw and you're like, that's a funny little moment that will make that movie so iconic of its time. Well, let's reference that joke and play it up some more, or just play it again. You remember that joke, right? It was in the first movie. Man, I hate that kind of humor. And luckily for this film, there really wasn't much of that. So I say good on you guys for writing a much more fresher take on some of the humor, willing to take some risks. That's dumb. Pretty much all I'm trying to say is they wrote new jokes. I liked them. I think they were pretty funny. You didn't have to refer to the first movie. I applaud you for that. Thank you for being fresh. Now, aside from the humor, is this a good movie? And I am happy to tell you that I really do think it's a good movie in terms of the story. See, in the first one, you had Deadpool, Wade Wilson, who was in love with this girl and was trying to, start life with her. But he's diagnosed with cancer and he thinks his life is fleeting, gets in a loop of a whole bunch of bad guys who end up mutating him. He looks like a burn victim and he has regenerating cells, but it's battling cancer at the same time, so he's kind of in this perpetual life and death state of being. But at the end of the first one, the girl doesn't care what he looks like. He's still Wade Wilson and she still loves him. So in this movie, I'm not going to get into spoilers just yet, really exercises what that relationship means to Deadpool, and I think it shows a lot in this film. There are different kinds of stakes related to him and his girlfriend, and it's a real good testament of how you can take Deadpool without retelling the same story of the first one and giving him new challenges and new outlooks on life that he needs to learn to be a better person. And I think that's where the strength of the movie lies. And when there was heart, there was heart. Now, I didn't tear up or anything like that, but I could definitely tell that these characters were having internal struggles and trying to come into terms with certain things. So, hey, if you could do that in a Deadpool movie and still be as funny, fantastic job. Getting away from story, I want to point out some of the cast highlights that I really enjoyed about this film. With newcoming characters, obviously Deadpool being a funny guy, I really like Domino. The actress who plays her, Zazie Beetz, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce her name, we don't get full much backstory on her. She just kind of comes into the film and says, hey, I'm lucky. That's my power. I seem to luck out in whatever I need to get done, so let me join your team. You saw it in the trailer. And so the action scenes with her, at least some of the missions you get to see her go on, it's kind of really cool to see how that luck really helps her. And this is a Deadpool movie, and you're probably wondering yourself, well, how is luck a power? How is she this fortunate? Well, luckily the film doesn't take itself too seriously, and so seeing her powers kind of unfold as Deadpool and the gang are trying to accomplish certain things, it's just a fun delight to see how creative some of the point A to point B moments are with this character Domino. I'm looking forward to seeing more of her in the future. Now, this is a quick highlight, but Terry Crews in this film, oh man, The way they used him in this film and the way they marketed him, you guys are gonna have a real hoot with this character. It's pretty hilarious. I strongly recommend. Look up some of the interviews that Junkets had for this character saying like, hey, why are you finally in a superhero movie? Just listen to what he says, and when you see this film, man, it's funny how they run with it. Good on you, Terry Crews. Good on you. Playing Bedlam. I don't know if that's a real character or not, but goddamn, Bedlam. Terry Crews, you the man. But back to serious talk here. I gotta say, Josh Brolin playing Cable, he was a pretty cool character. I was a little worried that after coming off of Infinity War, of what we've seen with Josh Brolin as Thanos, that Cable might come across as the same, but he's just as much as an anti-hero as Deadpool. I kind of like how he banters off of Deadpool throughout the film, and his powers and abilities, while it doesn't really go much explained, I would say, it's still pretty cool to see him in action, kind of have his Winter Soldier kind of metal arm, but he also has like a hologram shield and all his different weapons and the time thing he used. For those who don't know, Cable is actually from the future. It says so in the comics. And he comes back to try to take down this kid in order to save his future. And thus, that's pretty much the whole premise of the movie. So much like Domino, I say I'm down for more Cable. Not the usual kind of Cable. I'm talking about the comic book Cable. Am I right, folks? Am I right? Now, I say this would be the perfect segment to go right into my cons, I would say, is that while I really did like Cable, I feel like we kind of glossed over some details we could have had with his backstory. We did get snippets of it, of why he went back to the past, specifically, what was his motivator, what was his stakes. And while I thought it was justified, I kind of wish we had a little bit more of his backstory, a little bit more of like what made him Cable before shit hit the bricks, you know what I mean? The kind of thing that turned his world upside down, and now he has to go on this epic time-jumping quest in order to right the wrong. I want to see a little bit more of that. But maybe we will get more of that in the future. Who really knows? While I think this movie is just as funny and has a pretty solid story as much as the first one, I think one of the things that really hold this film back a little bit for me is the way the scenes were kind of cut together. The flow is just not as fluid as I would say the first one is. This film has way more locations, in my personal opinion or perception, than the first one. And so when we go from scene to scene to scene to scene, it kind of felt clumped together in order to serve the means of the story. And I didn't quite feel that tonal shift worked for me. Tonal shift might not be the right term I want to use, but just something about the editing. I felt like it could have been tighter and it could have been more consistent. It's really strange. I really gotta figure out how to pin that down, but that is my first overall thoughts on the film, seeing it just about 30 minutes ago, so yeah, maybe it's a fleeting moment. Maybe next time I see the movie, it'll flow better for me. But initially, it didn't flow as well. That's all I'm saying. And lastly, but not the least, another con for me is that some of the action and the CG just felt kind of cheap. I know that Ryan Reynolds says that he kind of likes the idea of making these Deadpool movies on a limited budget, but because of how successful the first film did, the budget went up, I wouldn't say considerably, but it definitely went up a bit more. And I feel like the writers and Ryan Reynolds himself was a lot more ambitious, so he wanted to try different things, different forms of action, and different types of crazy characters. And while I like them conceptually and the overall idea behind all this, I feel like the money was spread a little thin. The CGI could have been a little bit better. I will say Colossus kind of looks like Colossus as he did in the first movie. He still didn't look like a tangible character to me, like someone who's literally there, made of metal. But organically moving metal in movies is really tough to pull off, because honestly, what in real life kind of does that in such a way? But there are other characters that come in that rely on CGI, and there are action scenes that are definitely relying on CGI. And like I said, it definitely looked cartoonish to me, for lack of a better term, and I kind of wish they had a little bit more budget to polish and render out some of these scenes just to make it look a little bit more believable. But honestly, it's just a nitpick. It didn't really take me out of the movie. Plus, Deadpool breaks the fourth wall, so he's taking you out of the movie literally, so it's not really a big deal. So overall, those are my general thoughts on the film itself. Everything's been pretty non-spoiler up to this point, but before I give my overall impressions, I am gonna warn you, after I do so, I'm gonna go right into spoiler talk. I want to get into some of the meat of the characters that were introduced or some of the characters that are returning. Plus, we get a post-credit scene that I'd love to talk about, but might be considered spoiler territory. I mean, definitely on the characters. So, before I get into that, I'm just warning you, that's what I'm gonna say right after I give my overall. Fair warning. So overall, what do I think of the film? I give it a solid thumbs up. Almost a 2 thumbs up, but like I said, there were some nitpicks in there that kind of prevented it for me. I feel like if I see this movie another time, I think I'll enjoy it a lot more second time around. But hey, a thumbs up is a thumbs up, and that's fantastic in my book. So I strongly recommend it, especially if you love Marvel films and you want like a fun rated R action film with a little bit of fourth wall breaking. And yes, rated R, there are some gory scenes in here. Don't worry, in my personal opinion, they're not too bad. So if you can stomach a bit of that, you'll be fine. I think you'll be fine. We all good? We all satisfied with how I rated the movie in general? Gave my general thoughts? Cool. Well, now we are going into a special segment I'm gonna call Spoilers. You've been warned, guys. Spoilers ahead. You still here? Okay, let's proceed. So first things first, I did not expect Deadpool's girlfriend to kick the can so early in the movie. I remember I was checking the internet on some panelists I was watching when I was hearing news about Deadpool. When the Celine music video came out for Deadpool, one of the panelists kind of made an observation about how the lyrics went for this official Deadpool music. They pointed out saying like, if you saw the trailers, you'll notice that Deadpool's girlfriend kind of only shows up in one scene. And I disregarded it that this panelist was saying like, oh, maybe she dies early in the film. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of weird because the whole first part of the movie was trying to get the girl, so why would they just kick her to the side so fast? So I figured the whole movie would just be like, oh, Deadpool's gonna go on an adventure and leave the girl behind for now. That's what I thought it would be. But that panelist was 100% correct. She was killed, and I did not see that coming, and it was a little jarring. A little sad to see, but she wasn't absent throughout the whole film. She kind of became this motivator for Deadpool to grow as a character, because the whole concept is, hey, he got the girl, he fell in love, he found someone who didn't judge him for how he looked. Next thing he's got to learn is how to take care of a family, how to be there for somebody and have people there for him. Someone there to be emotional support. And I think that was a pretty nice touch to use her as a means to help Deadpool in his time of mourning, conflict, and all that stuff. And kind of tying back into the Cable-Deadpool relationship, I was actually worried that Cable was just going to be the straight up villain in this movie, because based off the lore and the source material that I've heard of, Cable and Deadpool are kind of like buddy-buddies when it comes to fighting crime or like going on missions and stuff, where Cable was like the dead-eyed serious dude, while Deadpool was the wisecracking assassin guy, always getting on Cable, annoying him and stuff. And it was that power dynamic that a lot of the humor would come from, at least in the comics. So when they made Cable the bad guy, to a degree, I was a little worried that I was like, oh, we're not really going to get any of that banter. But near the end of the film, they decided to make a truce and team up to confront Russell and try to convince him not to do bad. Or at least Deadpool didn't want him to do bad. Cable just wanted to straight up kill him, because I mean, Russell did kill Cable's wife and daughter. That's his own motivation. I get that. But I suppose Deadpool saw that what that turned Cable into was a little bit of a monster. Cable is very much an anti-hero. He's not a straight up X-Man. So I guess in many ways Deadpool saw this and really did not want Russell to become that. He wanted him to be good and not make the same mistakes that definitely Cable made, but at the same time not make the same mistakes that Deadpool made, because it was briefly brought up that Deadpool obviously did not have a great childhood, but I think we got enough information to know where Deadpool's coming from, and with his dead girlfriend, which I apologize for forgetting her name, sorry, that became the crux of where he needed to go, his motivator, and I'd say it worked in my opinion. Deadpool grew as a character. But last but not least, let's talk about that post-credit scene. Obviously, it's meant more as a gag rather than a teaser to what comes next, much like the MCU films like to do. I personally thought it was kind of funny how Deadpool used a little time pendant thing that Cable originally used to go back in time and try to right some of the wrongs, but I have a very strong feeling that whatever we saw was obviously considered not canon. I mean, he went back and shot the old Deadpool that Fox did in one of the Wolverine movies. That would have made no sense. And then he went back to shoot the actor Ryan Reynolds from getting the script to Green Lantern. It's a little goofy. And there were like some other things there too. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but oh right, obviously when he went back in time to prevent his girlfriend from dying, that would have like undid all the events done in Deadpool 2. So I'm pretty confident, well, I don't want to be confident, but I am confident that she's gone for now. And that post-credit scene is just a joke. I mean, and I heard other things too, that this post-credit scene didn't quite end abruptly on the Green Lantern gag. You're welcome, Canada. There was a gag in the movie, if you remembered, where Deadpool made a joke saying about, well, I think someone else, no, Deadpool did make the joke, saying, why not go back and kill Hitler? Heck, go back in time and kill baby Hitler. And I heard in the original post-credit scene, Deadpool actually did go and do that. In a slightly comical way, but I guess with test audiences, they didn't quite laugh at that, despite the fact that it was Hitler, a man who killed a lot of people. It was a baby. So I guess people thought it was a little too cringy, like maybe it went too far. So they decided to just cut it to the Ryan Reynolds thing. That's my guess, at least. So, fun little tidbit to know. Oh, and before I end up the spoiler thing, if you guys spotted that cameo, which obviously there's a couple cameos, but the Stan Lee cameo, I really like that giant graffiti they had on the side of the building in that one shot when they were going after the convoy. And the other cameo, which is the Matt Damon one, where Matt Damon, right? The Vanisher, one of the X-Force characters who ended up dying. And when he got electrocuted, he actually showed up and it was Matt Damon. I think it was Matt Damon. Was it Matt Damon, AOJ? And I believe there were a lot of cameos, especially in the very beginning when you see the little rotating toy of Logan impaled by a tree, which is an obvious spoiler for Logan. It's in the movie. If you haven't seen Logan, I'm sorry if I spoiled that for you, but the movie kind of just goes straight to that right away. And if the audience laughs and sees that and you haven't seen Logan, I'm sorry to say that's kind of on you. The same thing would happen to me because I actually was pretty late to the boat when it came to Logan. But hey, funny cameos. There were a lot of funny cameos and a lot of references to the old X-Men's, especially that one joke where Deadpool was back at the mansion was saying, you guys always seem to be the only X-Men here. And then to the left of Deadpool was James McAvoy's Xavier and Days of Future Past, all those the Apocalypse gang, all there, and they're just like, close the door, close the door, close the door. We don't need Deadpool to see what we're up to. Just close that door. I thought that was a funny cameo. I don't know if they all gathered together to actually shoot that or not, or maybe that was just from a scene elsewhere. I don't know. I thought it was funny, even though I haven't seen Age of Apocalypse or Days of Future Past. So sad for me. I've seen all the MCU films, so that's gotta amount to something, am I right, guys? So anyway, folks, that will do it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and like I said, this was the spoiler section, so hopefully you saw the movie. If you did not, I do apologize. Hopefully my rambling just went through one ear and out the other for you if you haven't seen the movie and forgot what I said. So don't rewind that video, find out exactly what I said. But if you did see the movie, then good for you. Oh yeah, you should feel special. You just saw Deadpool 2. Hey, let me know what you think of the movie in the comment section below. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Was it not as funny as the first? Was it funnier than the first? But the story just did not grab ya. All film is subjective. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hey, before you go, be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like this review. If you want to see other reviews that I've done, check out the playlist here. Or if you want to check out a random video from our channel, click here. Be sure to subscribe as well. Alright guys, that's my cue to go. So as I like to say here on this channel, to be continued.